I was a paramedic for 4 years, and during that time, I really felt like I wasn't doing enough, right? I was the go-between between somebody's house or somewhere in their environment and the hospital, and there wasn't any room for insight or growth or learning. So I knew I wanted to do something more, and I knew at that time that I really enjoyed psychiatry. I think there's such value in looking at all of the different facets of somebody's life. It's not just a mental health diagnosis. It's what we call the biopsychosocial spiritual approach. It's biological factors, it's psychological things, how we think about ourselves and others, it's our social environment, it's our relationships, and it's also our spiritual, and I think spiritual gets missed a lot in psychiatry. So it's the whole approach that we take, and it really can give us a lot of clues about how somebody feels in their life, how they interact with other people, what's the whole fabric of their life. Having the whole picture is a really important perspective to have. Using SPECT scans is an amazing tool to look at how the brain is actually functioning. So not only what it looks like or its structure, which is something like you would see in a traditional CAT scan or an MRI, but we're looking at how it's actually working. This is new to psychiatry. Right? Psychiatry has not traditionally looked at the function of the brain. Look at Victorian times. Look at where people are eating. They were eating heavy metals. Their breads were made of plaster. We were using mercury and other heavy metals to treat people. And that's one of the reasons osteopathic medicine was started, which I am a DO. People were institutionalized forever for all causes. And then they started with antipsychotics, and that was a huge thing. And then it got people out of institutions, which is great. So now we're like, okay, well, what's the next thing? But mainstream psychiatry is still not looking at the underlying causes. Amen Clinics not only looks at the brain using the SPECT scans, but they also take a really holistic approach. So they say, okay, if there's something going on with the brain, what else do we need to look at that might tell us that there's a problem somewhere else? So it's using an integrative approach with supplements, and supplements often are replacing nutrients that have been lost, or it's using a functional approach, which looks even deeper into things like genetics and epigenetics, vitamins and minerals, the health of the gut microbiome. So it looks at so many things. So we get to incorporate everything. So until we look at the underlying causes and we change things in our environment, because there are things in our environment that are potentially very toxic and we don't know for the most part, we're not going to get to health and healing that we need to.